It started with a quiet breath. The alien research ship, Veltronic, hovered high above Earth's atmosphere. Cloaked and silent, its crew focused on their mission, observe humanity, and collect environmental data. It was a peaceful planet, or so they thought. But peace was not what they found when they took their first air sample. Dr. Threll, the head xenobiologist, coughed violently after breathing the small filtered amount of Earth's air inside the secure chamber. His skin flushed green, his eyes bulged, and his hands trembled as he tried to speak. "Something's inside the air," he gasped, collapsing onto the floor. Alarms shrieked. Medic drones swarmed the lab. The sample was sealed, quarantined, and scanned from every angle. The rest of the crew watched through the lab windows, frozen in place. They had tested air from over 4,000 planets, but nothing like this had ever happened before. Dr. Threll survived, barely. But what he whispered later shook the entire ship. There are particles in Earth's air that act like controlled microagents. They respond to intention, to thought. They moved when I moved. I wasn't alone in my own body. The crew didn't believe it until they tested it again. 3 more scientists entered the chamber, all protected by full suits. Within minutes, one began to hallucinate. Another started laughing uncontrollably. The third stood completely still, eyes wide open, whispering words that weren't hers. "Who's there?" she kept asking, again and again. Command froze all contact with the sample and sent an emergency report to the Galactic Science Council. The message took 3 hours to reach them, but by the time it did, the Veltronic was already falling back from orbit. Not because of an attack, but because no one wanted to stay above a world where the air itself could talk. Back on Earth, life continued normally. Humans had no idea they were being watched. No clue that alien scientists were panicking because of the invisible world they breathed in every second. In a cold chamber on the Council's central space station, the top minds of 9 alien civilizations gathered to review the Veltronic's data. They played the recordings. They scanned the readings. The air sample from Earth was alive, but not with bacteria or viruses. With behavior. The Council President, a creature with a crystalline skull and 6 blinking eyes, raised one of its hands. "This is not mere air. This is a weapon, or a technology, or a defense system too advanced for us to see." Others murmured in agreement. The samples responded to emotions. When the human soldiers shouted, the air swirled. When they cried, the particles shimmered. When they bled, it thickened. Earth's atmosphere wasn't just reacting, it was protecting. Have we been tricked? One council member asked, clicking his mandibles. Is humanity hiding something from us? No, another voice replied quietly. It was Counselor Ezra of the Moran people. They don't even know what they're breathing. That was the most terrifying part. The humans were clueless. They lived among these microagents daily, never aware of what was happening in their lungs, their blood, their brains. They believed in evolution, in science, in randomness. But the council saw patterns that shouldn't be there. They began collecting more data secretly. They sent cloaked drones into Earth's skies. They followed hurricanes, forest fires, volcanic eruptions, hoping to see how the air behaved in chaos. What they found changed everything. Earth's air didn't just carry reactions, it adapted. During fires, it helped animals flee faster by enhancing their oxygen intake. During combat, it seemed to thicken near injured humans, slowing bleeding. The more they observed, the more one thing became clear. The air was watching. That night, deep beneath a research outpost on the moon of Karxil, the council held a secret vote. The result was unanimous. They had to learn more, no matter the risk. Not just for curiosity, but for defense. If Earth's air was some kind of ancient biotechnological field, and if it could be replicated or stolen, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. And Earth ignorant, Reckless Earth would become the most dangerous planet known. So, they sent a new team, not observers, not scientists. Specialists. A small unit trained in silent extraction, covert infiltration, and environmental capture. Their mission: collect a full atmospheric core sample and return without being seen. Their leader, a cold-eyed alien known only as Vreek, stood on the edge of the ship's docking bay as it prepared to descend. They breathe it every day. Vreek said, tightening his grip on the black mask around his face. We just need to know what it's breathing back. As the ship broke into Earth's night sky, hidden by stealth fields and clouds, one of the human satellites briefly blinked out. A glitch, the technicians thought. Nothing serious. But by then, the first real contact with Earth's living atmosphere had already begun, and the air was waiting. The black ship slid through Earth's clouds like a shadow in water. No alarms were triggered. No human radar saw them. Not even the birds noticed the strange shape gliding silently above their world. It was night in the northern forests of Canada, and the trees whispered as the ship landed gently among them. Vreek stepped out first. His boots sank softly into the mossy ground, and he looked around with sharp, glowing eyes. Behind him, his team followed 6 highly trained specialists, each wearing a sealed suit, each carrying a case of strange tools. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Their orders were clear: gather the deepest sample of Earth's atmosphere from ground to sky, and return without being seen. But the moment their suits opened to begin air intake, the forest went quiet. No wind moved. Birds called. Even the insects stopped buzzing, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Vreek noticed it immediately. He checked his wrist scanner, expecting nothing unusual. But the readings confused him. The air wasn't still. It was surrounding them. Tiny changes in pressure, shifts in temperature, particles slowing down when near their suits. Something was reacting, as if aware of their presence. But that wasn't the strange part. What shook Vreek was how the air responded to their thoughts. When one of his team, a scout named Drenna, began feeling nervous, her heart rate rose and the oxygen around her thickened. When another, a cold sniper named Yor, imagined violence, the nitrogen level near his gloves dropped for 3 seconds. This was no accident. The air wasn't just reacting to their bodies, it was reacting to their minds. Collect faster, Vreek ordered quietly. Don't let it know what we're doing. But the air already knew. 2 miles away, a human hiker named Mason was camping in the forest. He had no idea about the ship, or the council, or the science teams floating in space. He was just here to escape the noise of the city and breathe some fresh air. That air was now watching him too, as he poked at the fire. A breeze touched his cheek, and something strange happened. His headache vanished. He didn't notice it leave, it just disappeared in a blink. He smiled, stretched, and took a deep breath, whispering, "This place feels alive." He wasn't wrong. Back at the alien camp, the team was almost done. Storage pods were filling, the chemical filters absorbing layers of atmosphere, from the forest floor up to the cloud line. Then something went wrong. Drenna fell, her visor fogged up. Her hands shook. She clutched her chest as her breathing slowed. The scanner beeped wildly. It wasn't poison or sickness. It was too much oxygen too fast. The air was feeding her lungs faster than her suit could regulate. It's adjusting to her panic, Yor said, pulling out an injector. The more afraid she gets, the more it tries to help. But it's helping too much. Vreek grabbed the case and slammed it shut. We leave now. Take what we have. But the forest had other plans. As they moved toward the ship, a strong gust of wind slammed the side of the ship's ramp. Trees swayed violently. The engines flickered. The air was resisting them. We've been made. Yor hissed. We have to burn out now. But burning meant heat, and heat meant fire. Vreek knew it. The forest would fight back. If the air truly was a system living, intelligent, it might defend itself like any life form would. He made a call. Quiet launch. No burn. Evade altitude. Spiral pattern. We're not enemies. Just leave it all behind. The ship lifted, engines humming gently, trying not to anger the forest further. But as they rose, every monitor in the control room lit up. The storage pods were glowing. Vreek opened one carefully. Inside, the captured air was moving. Not swirling like gas, moving like thought, like code. Patterns formed and broke. Lines of shifting density flowed like language. Drenna, pale but recovering, whispered, "It's not reacting to us anymore." Vreek stared into the pod, and for the first time, felt fear not of an enemy, but of something much bigger. Earth's atmosphere wasn't just alive. It was learning, studying, watching, and now, it was remembering. As the ship escaped orbit and entered dark space, every crew member knew the truth. This wasn't a resource they could take. This was a mind they had just disturbed. High above in the Council's war chamber, a signal appeared in update from the retrieval team. But the message wasn't from Vreek, it was from the storage pod itself. The Council scientists opened the file and stared at the contents in silence. Not numbers, not images, but words, written in perfect galactic common. "I saw you." Asterisk inside the war chamber, silence turned to fear. The message, "I saw you," was real. It wasn't a translation glitch or an encryption failure. The particles taken from Earth had formed language on their own, without help, without programming. It had been watching the moment the sample was collected. Counselor Ezra stood slowly, his long cloak dragging behind him as he approached the screen. "This isn't a warning," he said carefully. "This is a reply." The air knew it was being touched. Others disagreed. Some believed it was a trap. Others believed it was fake. One even accused the retrieval team of planting the message to frighten the Council. But when they opened the other pods, the truth became even stranger. Every pod now displayed new words, phrases, feelings, and names. "I know fear. You do not belong. Return it." And worst of all, "Your thoughts are loud." That was the moment the Council realized they had made a mistake. Earth's atmosphere wasn't just reacting to physical presence. It had read their minds. It had heard their thoughts like a loud scream in a silent room. "How?" one of the generals asked, voice shaking. "How can a gas read a mind?" No one answered. Because no one knew. Back on the research ship, Vreek sat alone in the control room. He had disconnected the communication systems and locked the doors. Around him, the air inside the pods shimmered gently, as if watching him. He whispered to it, not as a scientist, but as a soldier who had seen too much. "What are you?" he asked, voice soft. "Are you a machine? A weapon? Or something older?" The air gave no answer this time. But he felt it pressing against the glass as if trying to reach him. It didn't need to speak. He understood now. This wasn't just about science. It was about territory. They had crossed a line. Meanwhile, on Earth, strange things were happening. In a university lab in Tokyo, a young physicist named Aki noticed unusual changes in the air around her equipment. Her sensors picked up micro-vibrations, tiny patterns. That shouldn't exist. She thought it was a fault in the system until the air formed a small spiral right in front of her, across the world. In a desert military base, a pilot passed out mid-flight after reporting something watching from the clouds. His plane landed itself safely, though it had no autopilot engaged. The black box recorded a low hum just before the controls froze, and in a hospital in Brazil, a child with no brain activity suddenly opened her eyes. Her first words, spoken in a voice too calm to be her own, were, "Why do you fear me?" The world government started noticing the changes. The winds carried patterns. The skies formed perfect circles during storms. Fires refused to spread. In some places, while in others, sudden gusts saved entire villages. It wasn't random. It was intelligence. The council tried to hide it. They told the public nothing. But they sent a second message, this time to the atmosphere itself. What do you want? No answer came. But the pods that had been glowing began to fade. One by one, the words disappeared. Until the last pod Vreek's personal sample flashed a final sentence before going dark. Leave me alone. They had pushed too far. Now. It was retreating, but not forgetting. The council met again, this time an emergency session. Panic was spreading among them. The council president demanded answers. Is this an entity? Is it part of the planet? Or something that landed there long ago? We don't know, Ezra replied. But we must decide. Do we study it, or do we isolate Earth entirely? The vote was split. Some wanted more missions, believing the knowledge could make them powerful. Others wanted to block the planet, cut it off, and warn all ships to stay away. But one voice rose above the rest. Vreek himself, speaking through a secure channel from deep space. You're all missing the point, he said. We're not dealing with a tool or a secret weapon. We're dealing with something alive. Not just the air, maybe the whole planet. Earth is aware of us. And I don't think it likes being touched. At that moment, all lights in the council chamber flickered. Power surged. Screens went black for 3 seconds. When they came back online, the message center blinked again with one more sentence from Earth's atmosphere, pulled directly from the pods without a transmitter. Don't come back. The order was clear. No ship was to approach Earth again. All council vessels were rerouted. Human space was marked red on every star map. The system was silent, untouched, and officially declared culturally unstable. But unofficially, everyone knew the truth. The council feared Earth's atmosphere. Still, not everyone agreed with the decision. In the shadows of the upper chamber, a small group of high-ranking officials met in secret. They were not scientists or explorers. They were planners, strategists, and war architects. They didn't care that the air could think. They wanted to control it. If the atmosphere is aware, said one gray-robed figure, then it can be tamed, bound, like any AI. We just need a stronger cage. The others nodded slowly. A plan began to form, a hidden project far from council eyes. They would send a new kind of probe, one that could drill into Earth's atmosphere at the atomic level. This time, there would be no permission, no warning, and no team aboard. Only a machine. Deep in space, in a factory built inside an asteroid, that machine was created. It had no name, no voice, only purpose. It was made from reflective matter and quantum steel. It could shift its molecular shape and pierce through any field. It was fast, cold, invisible, and it was aimed straight at Earth. Meanwhile, the humans still had no idea they were being watched. Mason, the same hiker who had camped in the forest, sat at a cafe in Vancouver now, sipping tea and staring out the window. Since that night in the woods, he had strange dreams of winds whispering in his ear, of clouds that moved like eyes. He had no explanation, but deep down, he felt different, not afraid, not paranoid, just watched. In Tokyo, Aki's research was shut down. Government agents took her equipment. They told her she had triggered a national security concern. But when she asked what she had found, they gave no answer. Only one man in a suit leaned close and whispered something before leaving. The wind remembers you. Back on the council's secret station, the probe was ready. It was fired from a hidden launcher inside a dying star's gravity well. No one on Earth would see it coming. It would arrive in 6 hours, move through the air like a shadow, and take what it needed. The plan was perfect, but something was waiting. 5 hours later, as the probe entered Earth's upper sky, a strange thing happened. A comet that hadn't moved in 30 years suddenly changed direction. A burst of static hit 6 nearby satellites. And then, in the darkness above Earth, the air pushed back. The probe slowed, not by machines, not by force fields, by resistance in the atmosphere at levels that shouldn't exist. Gases thickened around it. Ion patterns shifted in impossible ways. It struggled to move like swimming through mud, and then came the voice. Not loud, not angry, just clear. Spoken. Not in sound but in thought. BROADCAST directly into the artificial brain of the machine. You were warned. Inside the probe, its system started to glitch. Its memory began to erase. It tried to send a signal back to the hidden station, but the air blocked the frequency. Bit by bit, its code unraveled. Not by attack, but by pressure. As if the air simply pressed on the very idea of its purpose until it broke. One last message escaped the machine before it was swallowed whole. I am ending, and then it was gone. In the war chamber, alarms exploded. The hidden team screamed. In panic, their secret probe had vanished before touching the ground. The readings made no sense. No trace, no crash, no debris. It had simply ceased to exist. Like a dream waking up mid-sentence, one of the senior planners stood up, trembling. We built a ghost, and it died in the fog. But it wasn't fog. It was Earth, and it had spoken. The council had no choice now. They couldn't pretend it wasn't real. They couldn't hide it from the rest of the galaxy. They had awakened something ancient. Something no one had seen before, or maybe something no one had dared to disturb. Counselor Ezra called for a public transmission to all civilizations under their watch. The message was short. We advise all species to avoid Earth, not because of war, not because of weapons, but because the air itself is alive, and it sees you. Even then, some didn't believe. But those who listened looked at their own skies differently that night. What if their planets also watched them? What if they simply didn't know it yet? And on Earth, Mason walked down a quiet road, wind brushing gently against his arm. The leaves danced beside him, and he smiled without knowing why. But far above him, the air moved with purpose, shifting like a current with memory, circling back to where the probe had touched, and waiting for whatever would come next. Asterisk, a second. Probe was never sent. After the first machine vanished in the sky, the council's hidden team went silent. No more transmissions, no more meetings. Their project chamber was found days later empty, lights off, screens frozen. No sign of a struggle, just stillness. It was as if the air had reached across space and erased them. The remaining council members were shaken. Fear now turned into confusion. The universe was wide, old, and mostly quiet. But this planet, this air, it was too alive, too aware. And they still didn't know why. How can a planet develop thinking air? Asked one leader from the Julo species. It defies logic. Evolution can't explain it. There must be something older, buried beneath the surface. So they changed strategies. No more machines, no more missions. They needed history, answers, myths. They sent deep scan orders to every archive in the galaxy, looking for ancient stories, anything that mentioned a planet where air could think. They found fragments, old warnings written on broken stone tablets, whispers of a breath that sees, wind that speaks, and a sky that remembers blood. One legend stood out, a forgotten document from a ruined civilization lost 10,000 years ago. It described a planet that had rejected its invaders without fire or war. A place where voices rose from the clouds and every breath carried memory. Its name was never written, only called the Living Silence. Ezra believed it. The rest were unsure. Some demanded one last mission, a controlled meeting not to extract, but to ask. To speak directly to the air, it was risky. But the idea caught fire. A team of diplomats, unarmed and open, would send a peaceful message. A single sentence, broadcast across the upper edge of the atmosphere. May we understand you? Meanwhile on Earth, Mason was becoming a different man. The wind followed him now not like a storm, but like a pet. Wherever he walked, leaves swirled around him. Rain avoided his path. When he spoke softly into the trees, he felt them listening. He didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? But one night, while staring up at the stars, he heard something that didn't belong, a hum in the air, not mechanical, not natural. A transmission. It didn't come from Earth. It came from above. May we understand you? The air didn't answer in words, but it moved. All across the world, strange weather unfolded. Fog spiraled upward in perfect rings. Thunder spoke without lightning. Waves pulsed in rhythm. Something was stirring. Mason stood on his balcony, feeling his lungs fill with the shifting air, and whispered, "They're still watching, aren't they?" A soft breeze replied by blowing a single leaf across his hand. Like a nod, in the skies above, the council's transmission waited. For hours, then a day, then 3, no reply came. No violence, no anger, only silence. Until the broadcast ship received a single file from orbit. It wasn't a sound. It was a vision. In the image, millions of particles flowed like rivers in the sky. Each one carried a memory, a moment, a breath. Human voices echoed within, laughing, crying, singing. All of Earth's emotions riding the wind. And then the vision narrowed. It showed a memory from the Council's first mission, the moment Vreek's team had touched the ground. But this time, it was shown from the air's point of view. Fear, pain, confusion, the feeling of being ripped apart. It had felt hurt. Ezra cried softly when he saw it. It isn't just alive, it feels, it trusts. And we broke that trust. One last sentence closed the transmission, formed from particles of light within the air's memory. If you seek peace, come with open breath, not closed masks. The message was clear. No more stealing, no more testing. Only respect. The Council changed their maps. Earth was no longer red. It was marked gold, sacred. Forbidden not because of danger, but because of wonder. Contact was allowed only through atmosphere-approved channels, and only if the air allowed. No ships entered. No drones crossed. Earth was left to breathe in peace. And Mason? He kept walking with the wind. Every time he closed his eyes and inhaled, he felt more than oxygen. He felt memory. He felt history. He felt something ancient and vast that had chosen him, not as a subject, but as a listener. Something had changed, and far above, in the swirling sky, the air waited. The galaxy moved on, but Earth was never forgotten. News of the living air spread to every system, told not as a warning, but as a legend. Pilots spoke of it with reverence. Explorers whispered about it with awe. Some believed it was an ancient defense system. Others believed it was a god. But those who truly listened understood something deeper. Earth was not protecting itself. It was simply alive, and it had chosen silence. For 2 full solar cycles, no ships dared come close. The skies above Earth remained untouched, watched only by satellites and drifting debris. But the humans, unaware of the Council's fear, went on with their lives, all except one. Mason was no longer just a man. He had changed slowly, day by day, breath by breath. His body was the same, but his thoughts were quieter. His emotions steadier. The wind responded when he spoke. His dreams were full of colors he couldn't name. One morning, he walked to a mountaintop alone. No camera, no phone. He stood above the clouds and breathed in deeply, letting the cold air rush through him. He didn't speak, but the sky did. A soft shimmer formed in front of him. Not a voice, not a face, just a presence. The air vibrated gently around him, forming a shape like a current of invisible thought. It had come to him again, and this time it asked a question. Do you trust me? Mason didn't answer right away. He sat on the cold rock, thinking carefully. The air wasn't asking to control him. It wasn't demanding anything. It was offering something. A bond, so he nodded. The clouds moved faster. The sky seemed to breathe with him. And then, for the first time, he understood. He saw how the atmosphere stored memory, how each breath from every creature left a trace. He saw how the air connected. Emotions like rivers, carrying grief, joy, love, fear. He saw how Earth's winds had shaped evolution, survival, even thoughts. And he saw the pain the Council had caused. Not through weapons, through disrespect. Now the air was asking something else. It wanted Mason to speak to the Council, to the galaxy, to everyone. Not as a leader. As a voice, he agreed. 3 days later, a signal left Earth. It wasn't sent by machine. It was carried by pressure, folded into light, wrapped in magnetic waves. The Council's receivers picked it up in fragments, each word made of changing ion shifts. And when they rebuilt the message, they found Mason's voice. Not in sound, but in meaning. You feared what you didn't try to understand. Now we ask you, will you breathe beside us, not above us? The Council voted again, but this time, no walls were raised. No weapons prepared. Instead, a simple gift was sent. Not a probe, not a ship. Just a small box made of open mesh, designed to hold air without stealing it. Inside was a handwritten note. For sharing only if you choose. The box was placed in orbit, untouched, and left floating. Earth's atmosphere approached slowly. Gently, it examined the box. It remembered the harm, but it also remembered Mason, and it chose. A small breeze flowed inside. The box didn't glow. It didn't speak. But when the Council opened it weeks later, they felt something impossible: peace. Calm. As if the breath inside carried kindness from far away. They realized then, Earth was not a threat. It was a teacher. Years passed. Quiet agreements formed. Earth was never colonized, never mined, never claimed. It became a place of silence and study. The air welcomed only those who listened with open hearts, not busy hands. And Mason? He disappeared. From human cities, some said he lived deep in the forests. Others claimed he vanished into a storm. But in quiet places, when the wind shifts in a perfect circle, some say they hear his voice, calm, steady, patient, listening, because Earth's air still breathes with memory, and it remembers everything.